Hello everyone.
Hello.
Thanks for coming here and welcome to the International Education Week 2018. I just want to give you a brief information about International Education Week. It is a joint initiative of US Department of State as well as the Department of Education, in which all schools across the nation participate, and we talk about international experiences, the exchanges and the benefits of international education. So it's an effort from Teachers College and Office of International Services to bring you all here and talk about international education and its benefits. So now I'm just going to tell our presenter to present the excellent workshop.
Thank you so much. I turn it? Okay, so I see where I have to stand. Because our network members in the world, they always ask, aha, and what are you doing? And please, we want to see the video. And so I need to kind of do it so that, thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm so happy to see you all. And I would like to start immediately. Is that okay? Bonnie, you are such a gift. You know what? You gave us these questions. Look, I read your questions. What is dignity? What are the various interpretations of the term dignity? In what way do these interpretations differ in their goals sought and in the problems encountered with each of them? What about the tension between local interpretations of dignity and a prospective universal interpretation? Who should decide? What about the tension between dignity of the individual and dignity of the group as a species that evolved in groups? What about those glaring test cases? Who shall go on the lifeboat if the lifeboat can only accommodate a limited number of people and the survival of the community, society, or even species is at stake? Who decides when all cannot be saved? Who decides who the deciders shall be? What about the resistance we encounter when we promote the idea that everyone has dignity when people roll their eyes or worse? How do we all benefit from promoting the idea of dignity? Bonnie, bravo. Wonderful questions. Thank you. Yeah, so important questions, I think. So I was really struck by your questions because I am working on this book, and basically it is finished, except it is not completely finished, but almost finished. So I will have a book talk on the 5th of December at Gottesman Libraries. And so I thought that your questions were so important for this book. I've been working on it and being lost in it in a way, and your questions focused me again. So I thought, okay, what would be my immediate reply? And my immediate reply would be, okay, what is dignity? And I would inscribe it, the different dignity definitions that I find in the world, I would inscribe them into the work of an anthropologist called Alan Page Fiske. Have you heard about him? Alan Page Fiske, an anthropologist. He went around the world and he found out that basically there are 4 basic ways we humans interact. And he calls the first one communal sharing. This is what you do in a family. You give what you can, you get what you need. It's the most comprehensive. And then comes authority ranking. This can be good parenting. It's a hierarchy. Or it can be a dictator. It's a hierarchy. It's ordered differences, ranked. And then you have equality matching. I take care of your plants if you buy sweets for me, or you go and buy the groceries for me, some kind of exchange. Then market pricing, it's a ratio. So if you look at the scales of measurement in mathematics, it goes from the nominal scale of measurement at the top. This is the most qualitative, like in a family, the most comprehensive. Then you come to the ordinal scale, it's the second one. Then to the interval scale is the third one. And the last is ratio, which is the quantitative. So it goes from quality to quantity. It goes from comprehensive to very narrow. Okay, so these are the 4 ways, basic ways human beings interact. Okay, so now, and when we look at it, what do we recognize? The world now has put market pricing at the top. Everything is market pricing now. And it is the most narrow way of being together and the most quantitative. So basically, what we do is to sell our grandmothers now. In the world, our institutions are like that. They incentivize us to think in terms of market pricing. Okay, so this is the word we have today, the 4 ways. And then if I inscribe the different definitions of dignity that I find in the word. And I was thinking, even today, this morning, I was thinking about these wordings here that I found. So if you look at the family, I give what I can, I receive what I need. What is dignity in that context? Dignity is when individuals connect in solidarity and care and cooperate to create a world of unity in diversity and in equal dignity for all, always cognizant of an inherent human desire to stand tall, not to be humiliated. Okay, authority ranking, can be, dignity is being defined in that context in very different ways. It manifests in one way, it can be parenting or patronage that nurtures a sense of equality and dignity for all. This is what you do with your children, with your Charlie. You nurture a sense of dignity for all in him. This is good parenting. But there is a very different way of defining dignity, namely, we have also the notion of dignitaries. What is a dignitary? It's a VIP. And he uses the word dignity, but completely differently. He would say, okay, I feel that my decorum, my honor, entitles me to look down on lesser beings. I'm a higher being. So there we have also the use of dignity, but in a radically different way. Then we have equality matching, I take care of your plants if you buy my groceries. Okay, in this case, dignity is seen as something that can be earned by offering or by consuming products or services. This is, I think, the definition I find most in the world. And then the last one is market pricing. And this is what dominates the world now. Dignity is seen as individual autonomy in local and global competitions for domination in the marketplace. And the final outcome is that dignity becomes unequal for all. So this is the world we live in now. We define, many of the people I meet, they define dignity as autonomy. And the outcome is unequal dignity for all. So this is the world I see, roughly, in a nutshell. Now I would like to come to something to me as a person to introduce. Many of you know that now. But here I think, 4 of you, and Marion perhaps, you have not seen that. That is my father. Before the Second World War, on the farm he was to inherit in Central Europe in Silesia. Then came the Second World War. He was forced to be a soldier. After the Second World War, everything was destroyed in Europe. This is when I was born, after the Second World War. You see my father, he has lost one arm, he has lost his family, he has lost the farm he was to inherit, he has been forcibly displaced, he's an unwanted displaced person in a different part of Europe. He is basically a destroyed, profoundly traumatized person. And this is him today. He's 92 and I love him deeply. And now he is preparing for dying, so it breaks my heart. So his kind of experience of many, many layers of humiliation, his experience is basically the motivation behind my global dignity work. The next book after this one here is titled A Letter to My Father, where I would somehow analyze or show how my path has been evolved by understanding slowly how he somehow survived trauma and became a profoundly loving human being, no longer subscribing to any macho, masculinity, having seen through all of that. So here you have a little bit of my personal history and story. And I have shared this with some of you, and you know about it more. So from the age of 20, I have therefore a kind of life project, which is to understand us human beings on this planet. What do we do with ourselves and with our planet? What are the extremes? What are the limits? What are our capabilities? What are our weaknesses? So I'm living globally now for the past 40 years, trying to understand us. And I see that we are the Homo sapiens, the modern human being we are on this planet only since a blink of a historical moment. 200,000 years perhaps, and this Bradshaw Foundation website is very good. It shows how we populated the planet. And you see that it stops about 10,000 years ago. Suddenly it stops. Our party was over. We populated, we could always go to the next valley, we could follow the food, and at some point the party was over. It was a win-win situation until about 10,000 years ago. And then the planet was full, very, very simplified said, and we were stuck, and we developed complex agriculture, and at that moment we started also to get afraid of our neighbors, that they would steal what we planted, and that we needed to defend ourselves. So war started, systemic complex war started, and or systemic war started, and dominator societies. We erected dominator societies with the strongmen at the top. The young men would be sent to the borders to die and kill in honor, and the women would be in the center, inside the house, inside, and raise the next generation. This is the dominator model of society that Riane Eisler describes, and many others describe in very similar ways. So if we look at it, then there is one very interesting turning point in 1757 that has to do with humiliation, how humiliation is defined, and dignity. In 1757, in the English language, in the encyclopedia, for the first time, to humiliate is defined as to violate the dignity of an individual. It is antisocial. For the first time, before it was pro-social. It was pro-social to humiliate a person into humility. Like the man of the house had the duty to beat his disobedient wife, to teach her respect and humility, respect for the hierarchy. So it was his duty to humiliate. It was pro-social. She should learn humility and respect. And we still have that around the world, the Taliban. We have many societies where it's like that. So in 1757, in the English language, we have this shift from pro-social to antisocial, and basically it is the forerunner of 1948, when we declared, as humanity, we declared that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. So 1757 is kind of the first step toward that. So this is a depiction that I have been showing many, many times. Many of you know that. If we imagine the first 95% of our history, you know, the first when we populated the planet, then if we think, how did we live together? We lived in small groups, and it seems that we had egalitarian relationships and not very hierarchical. And I used the lying eight there. And Judith, if you could come to me and try to go around here. Yeah. You know, what is the lying eight? To me, I use it as the symbol for, a little bit, the symbol for dialogue. It's also this Möbius strip, the infinity symbol in mathematics. It has many other names. And what you see here is also non-dualism in philosophy. It means we are two and one at the same time. We are not one. I don't do like that. We are not one. And we are not two, separate. We are one and two at the same time. This is a good symbol for dialogue. So I use that symbol, and I think we, in the first 95% of our history, we humans, we lived in this kind of dialogue. We followed the food. We didn't have to fear other people so much. Archaeology, of course, there is a big discussion about that because we can't have a time travel to that time, but this is, after studying this a lot, I would assume that we lived like that, more or less. And So then the party was over. About 10,000, 11,000 years ago, the party was over. There are other changes. It's a highly discussed and controversial discussion. You know, what happened about 11,000 years ago? Climate changed. So the Neolithic revolution. And what we did was erecting a gradient. We somehow subjugated nature. We controlled the food. And we subjugated some masters, subjugated people like slaves, like subordinates. The higher being presided over lesser beings suddenly, no longer the egalitarian. And in that context, it became a duty to humiliate. The master had the duty to humiliate in order the subordinates to show them their due lowly place. And like in France, there is the name for two kings. They were called the lazy kings because they didn't do this humiliation job and they were toppled. So les rois fainéants in France, lazy kings. You were lazy if you didn't do this job of humiliation. And today you still have that in companies. Humiliate employees in order to make them work. And so you still have that in many, many contexts. So for about 10,000 years, we humans, we lived in a context where humiliation was kind of pro-social, seen as being pro-social, even as a duty of the. This sentence, every human being is born free and equal in dignity and rights. This sentence is revolutionary. It was unthinkable before. Before it would be every human being is born unequal in dignity or worthiness and rights, and some are more free than others. This would have been the sentence before. So now, in 1948, we have a revolutionary sentence. It's a turnaround. It's a revolutionary U-turn in how we look back on our past 10,000 years, and we say, no. What we did the past 10,000 years to build this hierarchy, this is illegitimate. We deem it now to be illegitimate. There shouldn't be slaves. Everybody is equal. There should not be lesser beings and higher beings. So it's a huge turnaround. Okay, so if we look at it, then we look, for example, at Mandela. He was born down. Then he went up to you are from South Africa. He went up to de Klerk, to the white leader, and he said, look, times have changed. No longer is it legitimate for you to arrogate superiority. No longer. Please, I invite you to step down and to join us all, the rest of us, in equality and dignity, in a new world where everybody is equal. Please don't cry, oh, humiliation, my privileges, I'm entitled to my privileges. Don't. Come down quietly. And then Mandela went to his black brothers and sisters and said, it's not nature's order or God's will that you are down. No, it's a violation of your human rights and your dignity. You have a right to get angry. You have a right to rise up. And here is the big danger. In Rwanda, something similar happened. In 1959, there was a Hutu revolution. And the underlings rose up. Hutu is servant. They rose up. But what did they do? They didn't stop in the middle. They rose up. They wanted to become the new masters and exterminate the old masters. So there was a genocide. So they were encouraged in 1959, and the result was a genocide. So what Mandela did, he stopped in the middle. He did not say, and if he had said to his black brothers and sisters, take your hammers, take your machetes, take everything you have, go to your white neighbors and kill them. Perhaps they would have done that. Could have been. My third book on gender and love, Desmond Tutu wrote the foreword, and he said the white people in South Africa don't know how lucky they are. So it could have easily become like Rwanda. Okay, it didn't. And so this is what all human rights defenders need to know. If you empower people and say, so-called empower and say, please get angry, it can go very, very wrong. So therefore, I don't use the word empowerment anymore, because it doesn't have this stop in the middle. I use entrustment instead. Empowerment can go too far. So, you see, don't you like this as a nice picture of the lying eight? I love this picture. So this is, this is the last stage. This is what I hope, what I work for in the future, that we, in dialogue, take care of our planet together in the future. This is what I work for. This is my mission. So what we see in the last 10,000 years, this idea that people are equal and not unequal, this idea has always lived. Even though dominator societies did not allow for it, it still was always somehow alive. Religious awakenings often started with the notion that all people are equal. Islam has that notion, Sikh religion has that notion. So the equality, that people should be equal, always was there. And then as soon as a religion was institutionalized, it lost that message. Like if you look at the Catholic Church, very hierarchical, and the message of Jesus, how does that fit together? So it's the dominator society eats everything the moment something becomes institutionalized. This is why we, as a human dignity movement, a global one, are very careful not to institutionalize and to work with individuals and not with institutions, because institutions, by definition, are anchored in the old system, in a hierarchical system. So then you have 1757, then you have 1948, and since 1948, what do we speak about? We speak about human rights. We don't speak about human dignity so much, even though this sentence is every human being is born free and equal in dignity and rights. So dignity comes first, and dignity has also to guide rights. But dignity is such a difficult word. As I showed you in the beginning, so many different definitions. Dignity can basically not be defined, so it's too difficult, so therefore we all speak about human rights. But dignity is important, and to think about dignity is more important. I think the time has come now for that. So we have a timeline there. And so now I would like to go and look why or how did it feel the past 10,000 years? How did it feel, and what is the solution? So the past 10,000 years we lived in dominator societies, almost all of us on this planet, and we were in a divided world where everybody was more or less afraid of the other. And you see here a map of Europe. You see so many borders in Europe at the 30 years war. And what is the motto of the past 10,000 years? Everywhere, and still many people believe in that today. The motto is, if you want peace, prepare for war. War for peace. Peace through security. This is the motto of the past 10,000 years. Okay, how do we get out of that? Do we get out of it just simply by saying, oh, peace? No. I think we need to really manifest that we are one family on this planet, that we unite, so that we leave behind the divisions. We unite in dialogue, in unity, in diversity. And only then can we manifest Gandhi's motto, there is no path to peace, peace is the path. And security through peace, not peace through security. So this is why I do my global work, because I think that only by coming together as one human family on one planet can we leave behind the security dilemma. This is the name political scientists give to this motto, if you want peace, prepare for war. It means if I'm afraid of you and I get some weapons, you get afraid, you think I want to attack you, you get weapons, we are in an arms race and war is the outcome. So this is the last 5% of our history. Okay, so then we have a new security dilemma now. It is not between states or polities. It is basically between the 1%, the famous 1%, and the 99% and the rest. This is the kind of new security dilemma. There is a kind of fault line between them. And the motto is, if you want wealth, invest in exploitation. And you see me there in 2011 at Sukoti Park, and it was Janet Gerson. I was there with Janet Gerson. She brought me there. So again, globalization of care, trust and responsibility is what I work for and what is the solution, rather than globalization of exploitation, what we have now. So at the moment, I think we live on Titanic, which is going down. We as humankind, we here in the West, we live on the first floor, on the luxury first floor. And we think that we can continue floating even if the lower parts of the boat go down. Of course, it's an illusion, but people think that. And so on the fourth floor, we are busy with painting our cabins pink and playing games. And the most important thing is to make barriers so that the people from down in the ship cannot come up. The people down in the ship, their biggest wish is to come up, and they have a lot of knowledge. They have basically the knowledge, the indigenous knowledge, for example, how this ship can be saved. It's among the people down in the ship, and the people on the top floor, they don't recognize that. So this is both the ones in the luxury floor and the ones down. They overlook what? They overlook the iceberg. They overlook that the whole ship is going to crash. So they are so busy with the dynamics on the ship that they overlook the danger. So this is, to me, an image of where we are as humankind now. And so if we look at important dates, then we can say 200,000 years ago, we came on this, we were on this planet for the first time as we are today. We had a win-win context for a long time, and then about 12,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, there was a very dramatic shift, and we entered into a time of win-lose competition for domination. Then we have this interesting linguistic marker in 1757, and I call it egalization, the turn toward egalization, equality in dignity, a short way for saying that. It's the emergency also of what I call dignity humiliation, which is different from honor humiliation. As long as it was the duty to humiliate, I call this dominator in the world also the world of honor. I use the word honor for that, for this ranked societal model. And I personally, in my work, I reserve the word dignity for equality in dignity. So therefore, egalization, equality in dignity. It's not dignity, it's equality in dignity. That is the new notion. So in 1967 to 72, we see our planet from outside for the first time, from the astronaut's perspective. I think this is such a revolutionary image that we have not yet taken in how revolutionary it is. Because we all know when like you are from China, I'm sure that you look at China differently since you are here. Very differently. You get a completely different image of China by being outside. And the same happens with us. When we look at our planet from outside, we get a completely different understanding of our planet and of us. So this astronaut's perspective is a profound shift in our understanding, and it is the image that is the future that can bring us together. The astronauts all said, okay, we don't see any borders when we look down on planet Earth, no borders. So this is the image of the future, and I feel that we have not yet as humankind understood how revolutionary this image is. And then 1980, we start to overuse the resources of our planet. 1980. You know now, I think it is in August each year now that we have used all the resources of our planet, and the rest of the year we use the future already. We indebt the future. So, and this date is coming earlier and earlier and earlier. So we are now using 1.5 planets. In the US, I think even 6 planets. I don't know. I always lose track of that. But basically, it's completely unsustainable what we do with our planet. We cannot continue like that. We simply use too many resources, and the planet cannot digest what we throw away. You know, the gases and the material, you cannot digest that. So, and we started with that in 1980. Okay, in 1991, it was the end of the Cold War. There was a window of opportunity to do what I work for. What is the solution? Namely, that we come together as one world and take care of our planet together, in cooperation. This opportunity we missed. Okay, then 2007, 2008, the collapse of the blind belief in market managerialism, or whatever you can call it, predatory, neoliberalism. There are many words, I don't know which word I should use. You know, the economic crisis that unfolded in 2007, 2008. Since then, people are not believing in the system anymore. And I think the Trump voters, this is one reason. This collapse of the blind belief. There is no blind belief anymore. And now, what is our task now? Overcoming the terror of systemic humiliation. This is my message and my life mission. So when we look again at our history as humans on this planet, then we started the first 95% happily spreading out. We could expand, and unity in diversity was easy. Then comes circumscription. Circumscription is a term in anthropology that says that something that seemed to be unlimited suddenly appears or shows itself to be limited. Like today we have this very much. You know, we say, water is limited, clean water, clean air, everything is limited. Circumscription. Suddenly we see that something is limited. So about 12,000 years ago, then what became limited suddenly was the surface of the earth. Of course, it's finite all the time, but as long as we could always migrate to the next valley and there was enough space, enough food, we didn't know that. But about that time, this kind of was indirectly making itself palpable that planet Earth is not infinite in its surface. If the planet were bigger, we would perhaps still follow the food today. But so it was ending about 12,000 years ago, 11,000, 10,000 years ago. And we reacted, we adapted, and we are still very proud of it. You know, we say, we built states, we're proud, we built civilizations. However, we forget that we also invented or introduced war. And that basically today we destroy ourselves. We invented domination, slavery. We went too far. Today we go too far. We shouldn't be that proud anymore. Okay, so today we are at a new turning point, as important as the turning point 10,000 years ago, as important as then. And we have to think, okay, we cannot continue like that. It's not sustainable what we do. So what now? What now? Okay, and what do we do now? What is it what we do? We maximize the adaptation we learned 10,000 years ago. Domination. We maximize domination. And it's a suicidal path. We dominate, we extract the resources, we throw away, we dominate each other. Basically, it's a suicidal path for us as human beings. So we have to think back these 10,000 years and say, we adapted. In the beginning, it sounded very good. States, civilizations, the pyramids, yes. But now we go too far. Now we have to think back, to go back and think, is there a more intelligent adaptation possible? And there comes the Morten Deutsch Center for Cooperation and in International Cooperation and Conflict Resolution. Yeah, collaboration is the answer. Competition is destructive. Okay, collaboration, but not just collaboration in one group against the other group. Not the collaboration helping competition. This is what we have in companies now. They say, we have to collaborate to compete. No, global cooperation is what we need. Global cooperation as a human family, united human family. And this is what I work for. And we have the chance. For the first time in our history, we have this chance. We have never had this chance before. So it's basically a wonderful window of opportunity we have today. Because we have all the technology, we have the understanding, we have all the knowledge to really manifest the global family that collaborates in solving our global challenges. We have this possibility. So it's an amazing, and we have this image of the planet, the blue planet. So I say, wherever I talk, the people say, aha, but then you are a communist. Or, yeah. So I say, no, I'm not a communist. And, I want to avoid all these isms, communism, capitalism. I see that people get very angry just when these words are mentioned. People get very angry. Basically, these words have become humiliation markers. People say, oh, you socialist. And then others say, oh, you capitalist. It's full of disgust, full of, it's a humiliation dynamic there. And basically people who are so angry with these words, they have no idea what is behind that. They don't know what it means. It's just the word. It's humiliation markers. So what do we do? And I think, do we need isms? Okay, let us say we need isms. What about dignityism? Unity in diversity. What, perhaps, okay, so I try to think, what would be a world that is guided by dignism? It would be a world where every newborn finds space and is nurtured to unfold their highest and best, embedded in a social context of loving appreciation and connection. A world where the carrying capacity of the planet guides the ways in which everybody's basic needs are met. A world where we are united in building trust and respecting human dignity and celebrating diversity. Where we prevent unity from being perverted into oppressive uniformity and keep diversity from sliding into hostile division. This would be my definition. So, this is the Human Dignity and Humiliation Studies Network that, together with Linda and others, and members here are here, wonderful members, we have, the idea was born in 2001. It became more real in 2003 when Linda Hartling came to our first conference. We had our first conferences in 2003, one here, Morten Deutsch, he organized our first workshop in 2003 here at Teachers College. And we had our first global conference in Paris, at the Maison des Sciences de l'Homme in Paris. And Linda came with her husband to that. And since then, Linda and I are together holding hands like twin sisters doing it together. So it's a global fellowship of like-minded academics and practitioners, a not-for-profit labor of love for a new future for humankind rather than against something that is old. And so we have about 1,000 members invited. It's all upon invitation, about 7,000 members on our address list. And yes, we have been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize in 2015, 16 and 17 for our work. So these are some pictures. You see Linda there, here Linda, Michael, many wonderful people. And we have 2 conferences per year, one here in December always, and this is upcoming. And all of you who don't know, you don't know yet, it's on the 6th and 7th of December in Everett Lounge. So write me an email if you want to participate. And then we have a second conference every year in a different place in the world. And you see we have had it in many places, and I just now come from Egypt. We had our last Dignity Conference in Egypt, but we had it in China in 2007, in Hangzhou. And so next year in Brazil, hopefully. So this is our last one here in Everett Lounge. This is last year. And there we had the motto, the nature of dignity and the dignity of nature. And this was our kind of summary. During the past millennia, honor meant, I told you that I used the word honor for the dominator society. Honor meant rising from humiliation by aiming for victory through competing for domination. This was the past 5% of our history. 1757 and 1948 marked the emergence of dignity as solidarity and care. Then, however, during the past 4 decades, the old way was brought back. And dignity and nature are now being sold out for new victories. Dignity is seen as autonomy and profit, and the result is ever more humiliation. So we had our conference now in Egypt. This is next year in Brazil. We have a Dignity Press. We look for a new director or a new nurturer. because our dear Uli, who has built it up, is stepping aside, so we need another person who would take over the leadership here. And so these are the books that I have written, and if you write to me, I can send you my private copies. And I thank you very much.